Hi there, guys, and welcome to a special mid-season edition of the Cover Zero show. It's just me and Dan here today. Say
Oh
hi, Dan.
hi, Arnie is too lazy to be here. I don't know where he is.
I don't know, up to something. Probably reading about Taylor Lewan and giggling to himself, or watching punter highlights.
Yeah. Him and Rich Eisen are the Punters of People 2 fan club.
Yep, they sure are. So for this episode, we're going to give our general thoughts on the season so far. We're going to go through each team, how we feel they've performed up to the midway point. Every team's played at least 8 games now. A few have played 9. Before giving some sort of mid-season awards, because everyone does that. And I'll also mention my breakout player that I'd selected for each team. Some good and some bad in there. So first up, Quinch, how do you feel this season has been as a fan?
This has been a mixed bag of the season, truth be told. Biggest highlight from it is reduced ad breaks, if we're talking total, season as a whole. I don't know, the season feels a bit disappointing, if you get me. It's, we seem to have reached that critical mass point where the older superstars are getting to that point where they're either declining or retiring, and the younger stars haven't quite got to the next level yet. So we seem to be sitting in a sea of mediocrity, unless you're Philadelphia, Kansas, or the LA Rams, I suppose. But
I think one of the reasons that I've heard a lot of people have been pretty down on the scene so far. I just think there's been a lack of consistent, high quality offenses this year. I mean, how many teams can we describe as offensive powerhouses right now this year?
Philadelphia,
the
Rams,
Eagles,
oddly.
the Eagles and Rams, and that's to some degree that's about it. The Steelers haven't been as explosive; they've been effective. The Patriots to some degree, but again they've kind of slowed things down. The Chiefs have slowed down. I think that has kind of led to a lot of people finding the games a bit boring. People love offense, and on top of that, some of the games have just been really poor because some of the offensive line play has been awful. That's what's really stood out to me, is how low the standard of offensive line play has been. It's improved slightly over the first month, but there's still a lot of teams that they can't play consistent offense because they can't block in the run or the pass game.
It seems to be affecting quite a few teams this year. I mean, there's some teams it's expected from. The Cardinals, Seahawks, the Bucks. You kind of expected their O-lines to be dodgy, but I think this is down to, obviously, when they had the whole health and safety, we're going to reduce practice time in pads thing, is they're not getting enough time to practice and develop his O-line. So as a result, the general standard of play across the league on the O-line is terrible, which leads to, as you said, really inconsistent offenses. I mean, you get a couple of moments where the stars align in, Philly and in LA, but aside from that, the quality of football being played this season, as far as I'm concerned, is the lowest I've ever seen since I started watching in 09, 08. So it's the lowest quality of football I've seen.
I think it's been very up and down this year. Some teams, I think the quality of defence has generally been better. We are not seeing a huge amount of passing yards compared to recent years, or at least it doesn't feel that way. And a lot of the teams that are having success are the teams that are playing well defensively, which we don't necessarily see in the regular season. It normally feels like the regular season is for the offenses. A bit of a reversal, and it's certainly been interesting in that a lot of the teams that we expected to be powerhouses, while some of them are doing quite well, they haven't been.
Well, one of the things that threw,
if anything, I think the league's been highlighted by the lack of dominant teams. I mean, beyond Philadelphia, you couldn't really say anyone has been dominant.
The thing is, though, is as well as people. I mean, you could make the argument then maybe all the teams are equally as good. Hence, the general plethora of teams have only 1 or 2 game leads on everyone else. But I'd also argue the opposite, that everyone else is sitting in such raging mediocrity that just you only get 1 or 2 standouts. I mean, when you look back at the pre-season picks we had, for teams to watch out for, man, we couldn't have been more wrong on some of those. The Steelers, for one, massively wrong about for.
Well, I mean, the Steelers. The thing is, the Steelers are much like the Patriots to me so far. Is that they've both had successful seasons to this point. They've just been underwhelming when you watch them. They don't. The Patriots have just been, I don't know, somewhat middling, but effective. They're winning games, and if they didn't have Tom Brady, I don't know what they'd be. And the Steelers defensively have been great, but that offense has been slightly above average, but not what people were expecting, especially with all the guys staying healthy and being there thus far this year.
Well, it's just that the teams on paper you think would be dominant this year have been meh.
Well, there's just been a lack of dominance all round, I think. It's been pretty unpredictable, though. There's definitely some teams we weren't expecting to see have good seasons, having exceeding expectations.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously the Chiefs, Bills, and the Jets come to mind.
On top of that, there's been some massive, but there's also been some massive disappointments. But we'll discuss those more in the awards section later. Let's move on to the teams. We've got 32 teams to get through. So we'll start up north. The Bears. I mean, the Bears actually, to quote the great Denny Green rant, the Bears are who I thought they were.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue against this. They are exactly who I thought they were. They started Trubisky, which I thought they should have done from the start anyway. But they are.
Well,
they're just a middling.
This team's passing game.
Yeah, I mean they're a middling to low tier offense with a decent defense that can keep them in games, but that's just not enough.
They're a John Fox team all over. They've got a really nice run game because that interior's been very good in the run game. So Jordan Howard's been good. Tariq Cohen's been a nice surprise. The passing game is just hampered by poor tackle play and poor receivers. But defensively, that front seven is really, really good. Akeem Hicks has been one of the surprise stars of the season. Obviously, he's not going to get a huge amount of hype because this team is just, they're just kind of there. But I think they've done a solid job. With all the injuries, I thought they'd be worse than they have. My breakout player for the Bears, by the way, was Eddie Goldman, who's been a big contributor to that front seven. He's
the
played
thing is,
well.
if you're a Chicago fan, you've got to be looking at the team and going, well, yeah, this is something we can build on. Yeah, there's definitely the team's buildable from this point to get to a competitive level. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, I mean, you've got pieces. The front seven's got a lot of young talent. You can keep that group together for a while. You've got the stud running back. You've got a nice pairing there. It all hinges on Trubisky for the long term. But I think this season it's been probably positive considering the injuries, but nothing to write home about for the Bears. But yeah, this is what I expected to see from this team this year. So I can't say I'm too surprised. We'll move on to the Lions. I've been disappointed with this team.
See, this is the thing. I am, and I'm not. Because the Lions, without the mighty Megatron, are exactly how I figured they'd play, but I did expect the defense to play a bit better than they did early in the season.
They were playing nice early in the year. They were getting turnovers. They were making big plays. The offense was struggling. I just don't see a huge amount of talent on this team, and I think that shows. The offensive line, they made all those improvements. With signing Ricky Wagner at right tackle, bringing in TJ Lang from the Lions, they've not really played up to scratch. This team still really struggles to run the ball.
Yeah, and I think with Megatron leaving,
Stafford's playing okay.
Yeah, and with
they'd be much
yeah.
team,
I mean,
but
yeah, we're talking about generational talent, and it's really exposed that offense for what it is, which is fairly mediocre with a decent-ish running game. If you're the Lions though in
they're,
the draft, you're going wide receiver. You need to get someone on the outside.
I don't know. It's they've got bigger holes. That's the thing. Kenny Golladay, who was my breakout player for them, looked really good when he's been on the field, and they've got a pretty good trio there. But the line has struggled. Golladay's not been able to stay healthy, but I consider that hit in terms of my breakout players. That one's gone okay, but defensively, there's just a lack of impact players. You've got Darius Slay, Ziggy Ansah's not playing particularly well. Haloti Ngata's on IR. It's not a great group. In this team, smells of 8-8. I think I had them heading into the season at 8-8.
If I remember correctly, you did have them at 0.500.
I thought offensively they've been better. They'd be better than they've been. This team just they rely far too much on Stafford at this point. If the line really comes together, I think this team could end up being better than they've been. But they're underwhelming to me.
Yeah, I think that the offense is the most underwhelming part. But I mean, at the start of the season, though, I had them pegged as an 8-8 team anyway. At a push, maybe a 7-9 if But no, they're an average team. They need to develop more talent, especially for Stafford. And obviously their defense could use a bit of a working on. But I think they're poised to at least compete.
They're the kind of team that needs a couple of stars, like a couple of extra sort of star-type players, and I think it would do wonders for them. But they've got an over-reliance on Stafford, I feel, to be successful. And yeah, it's tough because he's not quite on that level where he can carry the team to wins like the future Hall of Fame top tier quarterbacks. He's sort of still slightly just off that level. We'll move on to the Packers. I mean, what can you say about the Packers other than Aaron Rodgers' injury is devastating and has ruined what was a promising season?
The thing, though. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, you're looking at a team that's making the playoffs, and you're never going to say they don't.
Yeah.
But
No, you'd say the Packers and the way the Vikings have looked. Bit of a spoiler.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing though, with Aaron Rodgers there, you're looking at a double-digit winning record, playoff spot. But things like no one could have seen that. No one could have seen that injury coming. It's one of those weird freak injuries because he literally just the grass monster got him.
That was it was a legitimate one.
Yeah, but it is a bit of a freak injury. But unfortunately, now A. Rodgers gone down, that's it. It's season over.
I mean, defensively they've been better than they were last year, and that's the thing to me made this team promising. Is that they're not great defensively by any means, but with Aaron Rodgers and that offense around him, you've only got to be average.
This is actually going into the season. I think we both had doubts about the Packers' defense because it's the Packers' defense. But then the first spout of games they played, that D played really well, played better than I thought they would. Not elite by any means, and just barely scraping good, but they did enough, and that was surprising. But now they've got no Aaron Rodgers. That defense did suffer a fair few injuries early in the season, if I remember.
Oh, and the offensive line has just been banged up all season long. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah, but when you've got like the most accurate passer on the run, I don't think it matters all that much, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, he did get injured. Having an offensive line might have helped there. But I had Josh Jones as their breakout player. I think he's contributed. This secondary's been much, much improved. And he's been a guy that they've used in a variety of spots. So I think they'll be happy with that. So he's had a nice impact for a second-round player. The Vikings, well, they've been a pleasant surprise.
They have and they haven't. Defense, not surprised. You called it at the start of the season based on last season's performance.
The last couple of seasons, they're a young, talented group with great coordinate, like great defensive mind.
Yeah, but I think the biggest surprise, if I'm honest, is the offense has actually pulled together under Case Keenum of all bloody people.
To me, this is a testament to great coaching, is that this team has overcome some crippling injuries. You lose your starting quarterback. I And Bradford looked great in that one game that he played, one of the best games of his career. And Dalvin Cook was looking like, a superstar and, a potential rookie of the year type player. And the offense was built around him with Bradford being injured. And they've managed to keep things going. They're not an explosive offense, but this defense is an elite group. To me, they're a Super Bowl caliber defense. Keenum's all he's got to do is not turn the ball over. They've ran the ball surprisingly well. Those two receivers on the outside, I had Adam Thielen as my breakout player for the Vikings. I was confident he'd be a good player this year, and I feel like I was right on that. Him and Stephon Diggs have been really good. Had a
I would say my favourite player on that offense is Stephon Diggs, to be honest with you.
Oh, they're both
extremely good players. But yeah, Minnesota, it's a tough division to play in while Aaron Rodgers is still around. But they've managed it, sitting at 6-2. That defense isn't because normally you could argue the defense is carrying them, but the offense is doing its part to win games.
They're playing good complementary football.
Yeah, basically the Vikings offense isn't doing what the Broncos offense is, where the Broncos offense is handing the game to the opponent.
Precisely. So we'll move over to the AFC with the AFC North, and I've just got to throw it out there. This division's gone exactly as I expected, and I took some heat for saying that I thought the Bengals and the Ravens would both be bad this year. But spoiler alert, feel like I was right. So the Bengals, they've struggled for all the reasons I thought they would. The offensive line is awful.
Yeah,
awful.
But the thing is though, is I don't understand anyone who looked at that Ravens and Bengals team before the season started and went, "Oh yeah, these are good teams." Everyone on this show said the opposite. Everyone on this show was like, "No, the Steelers are going to run away with it because the other two are terrible." Turns out,
the thing with the Bengals is, and some people didn't accept this, they're in a bit of a rebuild year. They're rebuilding that entire offensive line. They've lost 3 or 4 starters over the last couple of years, experienced, high-quality players. Like the staple for this team for years has been Andy Dalton playing behind a really good offensive line with a couple of nice weapons. So they're rejigging that. Defensively, they've been good, and they've brought in a lot of young players who've contributed. I had Jordan Willis as my breakout player there. He's been a solid part of their rotation. I wouldn't say he's necessarily had a breakout year, but he's been solid as a rookie. But this offense, it's still just... they've got that really nice group of running backs, but they can't run the ball. Andy Dalton needs talent around him. He's never going to carry a team. This far into his career, I think that's safe to say.
Oh well, there's no disputing that. I mean, he had 1 or 2 seasons where he looked like the guy that would lead them, but after those meltdowns in the playoffs, no.
Well, he can. He's good enough, but he needs talent around him. He's not going to carry this team. Tyler Eifert's injured for the millionth time. So they've got AJ Green, who's playing well because he's AJ Green, but there's not a huge amount other than that. So this team's just, I would say, a disappointment, but they're what I expected. We'll move on to the Browns, though. Talking of disappointments. The way I thought this year would be, like if you flip the Browns and the Jets around, that's what I was expecting.
So you were betting against the Factory of Sadness.
The quarterback position has been a giant problem, but part of it also is, and this is the thing I question going in, is you're going to, regardless of who plays at quarterback, they've got very little experience. They've built this really good-looking offensive line that's not lived up to expectations. But who are they throwing the ball to? I was chastising them for the Kenny Britt signing, and I'm not going to take credit for that because, frankly, I think it's obvious. And Corey Coleman's been hurt. Myles Garrett's been hurt. Like the few, in theory, young studs they've got have been hurt. Quarterbacks have been turnover machines. The defence flitters between reasonable and terrible. The only real positive you can take is that Myles Garrett, when he's been on the field, has looked like a good player.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The things that I had no doubt about the Browns going into the season, and to be honest, I think it lies within the coaching.
I thought they'd be bad. I had them going 5-11. That's still a bad
Yeah,
team.
but
I just thought they'd be.
yeah, but I would never have bet against them going winless. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised this year if we actually end up. I think it may be the first time in NFL history with 2 0-16 teams, unless the Browns face the Niners this year, which I don't think they do.
Would be extremely excessive. I had Emmanuel Ogbah as my breakout player there. He's been okay. It's hard to say anyone's been great for this team.
By breakout in Cleveland, I'm assuming you're meaning plays decently, because that's what.
He's been okay. He's not
well,
a bad player.
Mediocrity shine.
I thought Myles Garrett is it him. I thought with Danny Shelton, like there's a lot of young talent. I thought he'd be the guy that kind of benefits, but it's not really happened. The Ravens, one of the biggest disappointments, because people are just used to this team being good.
Yes, and if anything, I think this is a team that has shown just the raw attrition of losing players over time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real mix of veterans and young players on this team. Because I mean, you've got guys like Jeremy Maclin and Terrell Suggs. Mike Wallace has been around for a long time now, which is strange to think of. And then they've been trying to get younger, bringing in vets like Eric Weddle. And defensively, they've been really hit and miss. They've had some games where they've looked dominant, like a top group, and then others where they've been very, very average. And I think part of it is just the lack of pass rush. They can't consistently dominate the line of scrimmage in that regard.
And let's not forget the London game.
Yeah, well, the thing with this team, and that's most shocking to me, is how much this defence hinges on their nose tackle. When Brandon Williams is right and healthy, they look great, and teams just cannot run on them. But when he's missing, it all seems to fall apart somewhat. But the problem this team has is simply this offense. It's just the injuries on the offensive line. Losing Marshall Yonder was huge. They've not really got much talent at running back. The receivers aren't great. Flacco's okay, I guess. They are not a fun offense to watch.
No, they are not.
But yeah, they got a good coach. That's the only reason I think they got as many wins as they do. Good coaching stuff. The Steelers, they've also been a bit underwhelming. This AFC North, not the best
the
this
thing
year.
The Steelers have been underwhelming, but they are thankfully
They're a good team.
They're sitting at 6-2.
They're a good team.
So
yeah, they're a good team because their defense is really good. They've been much improved. Getting good play in the secondary. Joe Hayden going there turned out to be a great pickup. The front seven's playing really, really well. Ryan Shazier's a stud. Got a talented D-line. And the offense, Roethlisberger just isn't quite looking the same. Obviously, Martavis Bryant's kicking up a fuss everywhere, so the passing game's not quite been there. But, they've still got the best running back in football.
And the best wide receiver.
So, yeah. Antonio Brown. the passing game may be stuttering everywhere that's not Antonio Brown. Juju Smith-Schuster's played well. Absolutely flopped with my breakout pick here. Because I picked this guy on my fantasy team, Vance McDonald, the tight end they traded for from the Niners. He's been a combination of injured and not doing anything. Maybe next year, but this is not a good year for him. So we'll head east now, and we'll go with the Cowboys. They've been a surprise team in that their defense is perfectly reasonable, if you could even argue quite good. But the offense,
thing is, though, the defense seems to play. The issue you got with the Cowboys is the defense looks good against certain teams, and against other teams it looks terrible. It's a really per game basis kind of thing.
This is how the Tampa 2 works, and I can tell you this from experience from when the Buccaneers were, really good at this defensive stuff. there's certain types of team and game plan, like real good power run teams. The Tampa 2 is not great against. If you're a really, really good downhill team, and we've seen that this Cowboys defense is lightweight. However, if you want to play a spread the field type of game, you let these guys use their speed rushes, you let them use their speed at linebacker, they're dangerous. And I think it's matchup dependent. But they've been the defensive line's been great, and it's kind of covered a lot of the issues. Sean Lee's been dominant. The offense has been fine. The Zeke suspension, I think, would be huge because it still feels like it all goes through him. And don't get me wrong, Dak Prescott's been really impressive.
I think
he's just a good
I think
player.
on that Dallas team, I think my biggest surprise this year is Dak has actually managed to carry that team somewhat. And I genuinely
He's not. I wouldn't say he carries the team, but when Ezekiel Elliott maybe isn't having such a good game, he does enough. And I think the receiving group there, like, I don't know what's happened to Des Bryant. He just doesn't look like the same player to me. I don't know if it's Des himself or that him and Prescott just do not seem to have chemistry at all. It's one of those two things.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've barely had a Des sighting this year, which is a shame because I love watching Des Bryant play.
It's been a while now since we've had a really big game from Des Bryant, which is a shame. Yeah, at his best, he's a great player, but I think it's been a pretty positive year for them.
Well,
I mean, just to see Dak continue in this vein, similar with Zeke as well. There's not really been I don't think they're playing at as high a level, but there's not really been much of a drop off. I think that's got to be positive for the long run. I'm not sure they've got enough necessarily to make the playoffs this year, but they'll be competing. So I think they can feel good about the future. It's been a solid season so far.
Yeah, agreed. I think, as I said, I'm just impressed that Prescott has turned out to actually be a franchise QB. I thought we'd see some serious drop-off this year. But, nope, he seems to have fit in well. He seems to be a solid quarterback, so good.
Yeah, certainly. Next, the consensus best team in the league right now, the 8-1 Eagles. I mean, what is there to say? They're firing on all cylinders. The revamped receiving core, big improvement. They're tough because they spread the ball around.
I think that's one of the most important characteristics of this offense. Is just there's no true number one target, as it were. They are spreading that.
I mean, that's been the most productive player by a long shot when he's on the field. But he missed last week's game, and
they still put up 51 points.
Yeah. Defensively, their front four are. I mean, we said going into the year that, arguably the best defensive line in football, including my breakout player for them. And I didn't mention the Cowboys one, Byron Jones. He's been good this year. I think he's the best player in that secondary. Timmy Jernigan, him and Fletcher Cox have just been menaces in the middle.
Oh yeah, no, that. I mean, the Eagles annoy me because they're just too good. It's really irritating.
They have been very good this year. I mean, Carson Wentz looking fantastic. The perceived weaknesses have been covered up well by good play in other areas. So this team looks like they could go all the way at this point. The Giants, well, pleasant surprise of the Eagles to arguably the biggest disappointment. A lot of people had the Giants as a Super Bowl team, or at the least a playoff contender.
I mean, they're a shoo-in for biggest disappointment of this season.
Yeah. I mean, they've got the receiver injuries now. But even before then, this team was looking like a dumpster fire on offense. The O-line was terrible. Yeah, we knew going into the year the line wasn't good, but it was worse than we anticipated. The run game, just not there at all. Because for years the Giants have decided they don't need a running back. And this defense is just... like the Seahawks always feels like they're walking a knife edge, but this defense could just start... The Seahawks defense feels like there could be a giant fight between them all at any given moment.
Yeah.
Well, that's happened with the Giants this year. They've just players being benched, ill discipline, like arguments. It's been a disaster. I mean, I can't imagine this Giants season losing Odell Beckham with a big injury. Could it have gone any worse for this team
No,
at this stage?
I mean that coach is out of a job. I don't care what anyone says.
It's bordering on impossible to see him retaining the job, because it's just been a absolute tire fire in every manner possible. I had Dalvin Tomlinson as a breakout player, but this team's been so bad, can't really say anyone has been. The Skins, they've been different to what I expected. I thought there'd be a far more dynamic offense. I thought the defense would be iffy at first and maybe get going late on, but they've been a good defensive team. And Kirk is just, I mean, this O-line right now.
The thing is, though, is in a sense they're playing exactly how I thought they would, because given they've got no weapons on that offense, they're kind of sitting where I would normally have had them. 4-4, middling offense, but the defense is surprisingly good. That's the real takeaway from this year.
On paper, the weapons are there. Like Terrell Pryor looked like a really nice signing. Jordan Reed's just not been able to get healthy. Vernon Davis is having a really good year. I don't know where that came from.
He is ageless.
And they've been able to get contributions from running back. It seems to be the way it works in Washington. They'll just throw out random guys at running back and they'll be okay, I suppose. But yeah, I just feel like these line injuries are dooming this team. Secondary's been great. Josh Norman is, to be fair, he's backed up his big old mouth this year. He's been exceptional.
Oh yeah, but that's to be expected.
I just don't think there's enough there for this team. At this
no,
point.
I mean, someone has to be 8-8 in this division realistically, and the Redskins are playing like an 8-8 team.
Yep. We'll move to the very surprising AFC East. If there's one division that's been chock full of surprises, it's them. I had Jamison Crowder as my breakout player for the Skins. That has not gone to plan. I thought he was going to be their number one target behind Jordan Reed. How wrong I was. The Bills. Shaq Lawson was my breakout player. He's been a contributor to what has been a much, much better defence than anyone anticipated, and all-round a much better team.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, I think I've said this in one of the other podcasts. It just seems that the more players the Bills get rid of that Rex Ryan brought in, the better they get. It's really odd.
I mean, they've basically got rid of anyone that's not Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy that the average NFL fan has heard of.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, we questioned when they got rid of their what was it, Sammy Watkins, I think. When they got rid of him,
yeah.
we questioned it. We're like, wait, so who are you throwing to? Turns out, it didn't matter.
Well, the passing attack, they've got Kelvin Benjamin now. It'll be interesting to see what he can contribute. And that game against the Jets, it really has left a bad taste, I think, for this Bills team at the minute. Because if they'd won that game, they'd be flying high and look like they have a really clean route to the playoffs. Maybe not the case anymore. But defensively, they've been really solid. And like I've said on the show before, they've been one of the few teams that's consistent this year. Tyrod Taylor won't make mistakes. He'll make the odd big play in a game. And there won't be many penalties. If LaShawn McCoy has a big game, they're dangerous. But this defense is playing great, especially the secondary. For my money, this has been the best secondary in football this year.
Oh, not the Vikings.
Oh, I would go with the Bills. They've just made more big game-changing plays.
I'll take that, to be honest. I think the only other secondary that comes close is, oddly, actually, Jacksonville. Their secondary's been playing very well this year.
They have. You know what's crazy? You could throw the Saints in there.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, but we'll get on to them in a minute.
Yeah, we will. Then we've got the disappointment in the division, the Dolphins.
Was it really a disappointment, though? It's Jay Cutler?
It's not about Jay Cutler. It's the general offense as a whole. I mean, before they traded Jay Ajayi, this running game was going nowhere. the offensive line's been atrocious. Cutler hasn't been as big a disaster as people will make out, but that's just because it's Jay Cutler. You know, people love to hate him. He had a couple of stinkers, but yeah, he played quite well on Sunday night. I did get my breakout player right, Devon Godchaux, the defensive tackle. He's been a good part of that rotation, 5th round rookie. The strength of this team has been the defensive line.
Is monstrous.
They are very good. But yeah, disappointing year for the Dolphins. This offense just cannot get it together. There were signs last week, but they need better line play, I think, before they can think about going anywhere. Then we got the Jets. Well, no one saw this one coming.
They're 4 games ahead of where I thought they would be.
I said they'd win 2, so they've doubled up so far.
Yeah.
McCown has been like McCown, to be honest. Like, he's been on some awful teams. If there's one guy who's experienced at playing on bad teams, it is McCown.
Well, the thing is, though, is they've exceeded all expectations. I mean, okay, fine, they're sitting at a losing record right now with 4 and 5, but they could realistically snap that losing record because they've played some damn good games this year. I think whatever.
Yeah, they've been blown out.
I think
once.
Whatever Todd Bowles is doing down in New York is obviously working.
This team buys in. They got a lot of the
just a bit more. Yeah, a bit more
season.
talent on the offense. You know.
Well, I mean, it's as no name an offense as I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I mean, bar McCown being the QB, I have no idea who's in New York.
Matt Forte.
Is he still in the league?
He ran for 2 touchdowns last week.
I didn't even know he was still in the league.
Big day. Yeah. I did nail my breakout player for the Jets though. Robbie Anderson of the receiving group.
Wait, but that's another nobody.
He's having a good year. He was my breakout player.
Did you just like?
No one knew who he was. Now some fans in the league know who he is. So
this just sounds like you threw a dart at a board and went, that Jets player who I don't know.
I'd been reading up and I heard a lot of good things about him in training camp. And I watched a little bit of film when he was in college, and he's fast. I'm not gonna, there was no scientific approach to that selection. It's like, I'm hearing good things about him. College tape looks okay. Why not? Whatever Jets player I picked, it was going to be a Hail Mary. And then we got the Patriots. We had the annual, oh no, they lost 2 games early in the season, the sky is falling moment. Although the defence was playing
The defence
awful.
was playing shockingly. However, they have really, I don't know what, I think Belichick's got his whips out because, man, that team's playing good.
No, they've not. That's the thing. They've not even done anything fancy or clever. They've just decided they're going to play basic zone defence. And as a result, they're not making these big crippling mistakes. The offense has turned full-blown ball control, which I think is partly a reaction to the play of the defense early in the year, because his first few games, Brady was airing it out, throwing it deep, attacking teams. Turns out Brandon Cooks was a great addition, but I think because the defense had struggled, they've gone with a more ball control, dinky dunk offense like we saw last year. And at the end of the day, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. Like, this team, it will be good as long as Tom Brady's playing football.
Can we point out, by the way, Tom Brady is just plain unfair. Dude's 40 years old, and not only can he still bomb it like a good one, he's still accurate as balls, and he's almost, his passing numbers and his accuracy is just off the chart, and he's 40. It's wrong.
Yeah. And Trey Flowers has been probably their best pass rusher, so a breakout player. I wouldn't say he's necessarily broke out, but I'm not sure anyone on that defence has, but he's been one of the few positives, so I'm going to count that as a win.
Just take him where you can get him, eh?
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable one.
Yeah.
Next up, the NFC South, and we get to begin with super mega disappointment of the season number 2, the Bucks.
Oh God.
Well, the train has come off the tracks in Tampa.
You're
Yeah, there's
you're
very,
one
very.
game.
There's like no
No, I mean
positives
you're
in this
one
one.
game from being at the same record as the Giants. If you lose to the Jets and they beat San Fran,
Well, it's just like it's just the thing that's so disappointing about it is, we were awful. Went 2-14, bought in Jameis, managed to go 6-10. Then last year improved to 9-7. You're like, okay, just what that one more bit of improvement, or even consistent. Like, even if the team had finished 9-7 this year, I'd have considered it a win because it demonstrates that you're a competitive team and you should be able to remain that way. And yeah, it's been a mess. The last couple of games, the offense has been terrible. This team just needs Jameis to get healthy, see some improvement from him at the end of the year,
no. What I think this team needs is a coach.
and hope there's no.
I think this team needs a coach they can buy
Well,
into. As far as I'm concerned, you saw this last week.
well that's what we're going to see in these remaining 8 games. That's the question for this Bucks team: is does this team care enough to keep Dirk Cutler's job? Because I mean, if this team ends, I think 5-11 or worse, you have to. I think, frankly, you probably have to ask questions anyway. But 5-11 or worse, he may as well be out the door.
5-11's a bit
It's
generous.
been well, even at 6-10, but it's just been disastrous this year, and it's looked like a bad coaching job all round because it's just underachieving in just about every phase. Inconsistencies. It's just been a mess. I had Chris Godwin as my breakout player, which might have been ambitious considering the amount of players catching the ball in Tampa.
Oh,
So he's just not seen enough
actually,
snaps.
because
So.
I don't do this for a lot of teams, because I don't analyse the rosters as much as you do. I actually had a pick breakout player for the Bucks this year, by the way. Deshaun
Who was
Jackson,
that?
who's done nothing.
The thing is, his numbers would look really good if Jameis could just have connected on some of those deep passes that
He just hasn't been the typical game changer that I used to D-Jax being. Now, obviously,
Yeah, that honestly is, if you've been watching about that, is down to Jameis just missing those deep
but
balls.
I mean,
Being like 6 that where he's been open down the field for like a 50-60 yard gain or a long touchdown, and he's just missed it.
I'm used to the D-Jax from back in Philly, with Michael Vick, and even in Washington with Kirk Cousins.
Washington.
Where he's so dangerous. He actually kind of dictates the way a secondary will play him. But this year, I think most teams they've seen what Jameis offers this year. He's regressed for some reason and just gone, just play the quarterback, don't play the man.
It's a weird type of regression in that the regression's in his accuracy. His decision making is still not great because he still makes the odd boo-boo and sometimes stares guys down, but it's improved on what it was in the first couple of years. The last couple of weeks, he's just been really poor throwing the ball. He's just been struggling with that deep ball all year. And when you Deshaun Jackson, that's what he's there for. He's there for the deep ball. If he's not catching those, then he's not going to offer an enormous amount to your offense.
Yeah, but all I can say,
we'll move on.
I know. I was just going to say one last thing. If you're overthrowing D-Jax of all people, there's something fundamentally wrong.
It does teach you one thing. James has a big arm.
Whoa.
Yeah. The Falcons. Well, I think this team's been massively disappointing. I stand by what I said yesterday on the show. The epitome of an 8-8 team. When I watch them, I watch them at the minute, and they just don't do anything well, but they don't do anything bad. They're like the most vanilla team in the world, featuring.
So what
Julio
you're telling me is they are the Atlanta Falcons from 2015. Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, they've gone back to the Falcons we've always known and loathed if we're in the South, because they're just mediocre all round, got superstar wide receiver, got an extremely good QB, but the rest of it's just not falling into place.
Yeah, it's been very disappointing. I had Duke Riley as my breakout player. I don't know if you could say anyone's been enormously impressive for the Falcons. So he's been starting.
I mean, the Falcons are a bit disappointing, but I mean, if one team
They're very
coming out of the Super Bowl
disappointing.
has to have like a hangover year, it wasn't going to be the Patriots. It never is. So,
No.
but however, I would still, spend
You still believe in the Falcons?
yeah,
We
and
did
I'd
cover
still
this,
spend a
yeah.
first round pick on Matt Ryan because he's great QB.
He's very good. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as great. Next up, the Panthers. Well, they've turned into the Panthers most of the time. The defense, this old man pass rush has been incredibly impressive.
No,
It is. I mean, you've got Charles Johnson, who's 31 or 32, Julius Peppers, who's a billion in pass rush he is, and Mario Addison. And
hey man,
they've been great. One of the best D lines in football. Keekly's just ridiculous, frankly. And the secondary's been good. Like, defensively, they've been dominant, including my breakout player, James Bradbury. He's been one of the best corners in the league that no one has ever heard of.
yeah. Although I will say, I love me some.
And offensively,
Yeah, I do love me some Julius Peppers though. It's good to see him still going.
future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, definitely. Things though is are the Panthers what they are kind of what I suspected they'd be. That defense does hinge a bit too much around Kuechly though, because the minute he goes down, they drop games.
Oh yeah, yeah, but that's true of a lot of teams. You lose, offensively, effectively. I mean, your defensive quarterback. We saw this with the Seahawks when Cam Chancellor went down. That secondary just doesn't play as well because the communication's not there, and you're less willing to make changes on the fly, and it affects things great. And on top of that, outside of the mental side of things, it's Luke Kuechly. Like, he's just a running, tackling machine. So yeah, he's great. The offense has just been poor. Cam Newton just needs to rein it in because he's been turning the ball over way too much.
It's quite odd as well, considering the progression he's made.
Just let this. You say that he's been, it's bar the MVP year. This is frankly a slightly more turnover-heavy version of Cam Newton than we've traditionally seen. But this is Cam Newton. You don't know what you're going to get on a weekly basis, other than if he's taking off and running, it's probably effective. In the pass game, you just have no idea. 1 week, like an MVP candidate, and then you'll get another week where he's just scattershot. And we've seen it all year.
Me all year. I don't know if this is just me. He has struck me all year as being quite annoyed at the fact that he's got no weapons at his disposal. Bar Olsen.
They brought in a couple of weapons. It's just the problem they've got is they can't block long enough to throw the deep ball. Their offensive line's still a mess. They miss Greg Olsen enormously, but they've been okay. Just feels like this offense needs to figure some things out for them to be a significant threat to do anything come playoff time. But you can say that about a couple other teams. But we'll move on to the Saints. Well, they really turned it around after 2 stinkers in a row to start the year.
It's odd that both the trajectory of both the Saints and the Patriots has been pretty much identical.
To some degree, yeah. I mean, the Saints, using a run-heavy formula, Drew Brees is playing really well, but he's just not being asked to do as much.
I know, shock horror.
And
Sean Payton must be having nightmares at the fact that his QB is no longer throwing the ball as much.
Well, I did say that Alvin Kamara was the perfect running back for this team.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was a huge fan. I was like one of the only people mocking him in the first round because only 1 year of college experience. But that tape, I'm a huge fan of his. I hate that he plays for the Saints, and he's been getting better on a weekly basis. And defensively, I don't know what's happened there, but they're playing really well. They've got corner play this year, including my breakout player for the Saints, PJ Williams. He's been a solid number 2 across from Marshawn Lattimore, who's a legitimate candidate for defensive
Oh
rookie
yeah,
of the
no,
year
I'll
at the
be
moment.
honest with you. After what was it? Must have been after week 1 or 2. But every week, I get occasionally the Pro Football Focus stats up on the Twitter feed, and both Saints corners are always listed in them. I'm like, wait, the Saints have corners?
Yeah,
I forget every week.
Yeah. It finally happened. It took forever, but they have some corners now. And yeah, this team, they could. They're a threat to anyone. They've still not, to me, beaten anyone really impressive, but they look like they're playing well on both sides of the ball. And Drew Brees is, Drew Brees. If it wasn't for Tom Brady being all old and great, people would be saying the same stuff about Drew Brees, and people should be. Because he's old,
but he's not as old as
he,
Tom Brady.
Only like him. I think he's 38, 39 this year.
We both know 2 years is like the equivalent of 20 years in the NFL.
It can be. Move over to the AFC South. The Colts. The luckless Colts. Both literally and figuratively. They are, without Andrew Luck, they are who we thought they were.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is going to be like the shortest analysis of all time. This is the Peyton Manning injury all over again.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett's been a pleasant surprise, I think. Marlon Mack was my breakout player for them. I think he's been good. Considering, the offense he's on. It's T.Y. Hilton. Again, if this team wins a game, it's because T.Y. Hilton got like 2 or 3 deep passes.
Sure,
and their defense somehow holds it together.
Sure their 3 wins have come from T.Y. Hilton going banana nut butters alone.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, this team's bad. They need to get Andrew Luck back. At least they'll have a nice draft pick to try and improve this team, because this roster still looks awful, especially on the defensive side. Losing Malik Hooker as well, who was playing great. Their first round pick really sucks as well. The Jags. They've been better than I expected.
I'm in 2 minds with this. I expected the defense to be good on paper because my boy's there, which kills me, by the way. Sack leader.
Having his best season of all, ever as well.
This is what I don't get. In Arizona, people knew who he was. He was feared. You blocked him. You kept.
It's a different role.
And then he goes to Jacksonville, and he is defensive player of the year / MVP candidate, and yeah.
To be fair, his play was of that caliber in Arizona, but as a 3-4 end, you just don't get the same opportunities. And now they're kind of moving him about a little bit. He gets placed in traditional 4-3 end, more opportunities to rush the passer, and as a result, the sack numbers. And he's getting a lot of help. This whole defensive line's playing really well. They got pass rushers there. They've got a great secondary. The offense, the thing with this offense is, and I hate to do it, but I have to give Blake Bortles some credit, because you got to bear in mind, he's without his best receiver, and the rest of their weapons kind of stink. So they are truly living the Tom Coughlin dream of let's give Leonard Fournette the ball until his legs fall off. And the offensive line's been much better than I expected.
I think this team is mightily improved.
They are. They're limited. They're definitely limited whilst Blake Bortles is there.
There's also been teams that have exposed them as being limited this year, hence why they're only 5-3.
It's not even exposed because everyone knows it. But yeah, I'm sure Jags fans are happy with how things are going. D.D. Westbrook was my breakout player. He's done all of nothing, so we'll forget about that one. The Texans.
They are simultaneously the biggest surprise and the biggest disappointment in the league.
Well, by which you mean Deshaun Watson was a massive surprise, and then his injury was one of the biggest disappointments.
And the 2 injuries the plethora of injuries on defense.
Yeah, losing J.J. Watt. I don't think there's a team in the league that can overcome losing 3 of its 5 best players.
No.
Especially when one of them's your quarterback. You just can't do it. Because you think they're 5 players. It's these 3, Clowney and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. They are a lot better than I thought they would be. The start of the season seemed to be typical Texans fare. Lose one, win one, lose one, win one. But they have shown down the stretch that they could have gone really far and actually started winning now.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get healthy like next year, and everyone comes back and plays as we know they can, they just need to fix a few issues. Like the secondary can be improved, the offensive line definitely needs improving, but the weapons are there. Deshaun Watson looks like a player, and defensively the front seven's really nice. So, it's a shame this year's kind of been a bit of a disaster, but promising. And Zach Cunningham's been a nice find at linebacker.
Yeah, I think
he's
the
making
Texans
a lot.
Are the team to challenge the AFC next year. Especially
they certainly could be.
The thing is now they're going to start dropping games, which means they're going to get another high pick, which means more weapons to add to both that defense and offense. That team's going to be possibly the cream of the crop next year.
Well, you've got to bear in mind they gave up a lot of picks to go get Deshaun Watson.
Didn't they? Oh, either way, sort of I don't know. They could challenge next year. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
We shall see. Then we got the Titans, who are in a weird phase of disappointing, which we've kind of gone on about a little. Obviously, with Arnie on the show, we do talk Titans a bit more than we otherwise would. Where the record is okay.
Well,
but they just don't look particularly impressive. They're not putting it together. They're inconsistent, and they don't have an To me, they don't have an identity. Last year they did. This year, not really. But they feel like an 8-8 team.
With the Titans they're one of my favourites going into the season, and then I remembered who their coach was, and then it turns out he's not very good. So yeah.
Well, I mean, they've had the division basically gift wrapped to them. If you can't win it in a year with Andrew Luck missing, where all of the Texans players get hurt, and the Jags are still led by Blake Bortles, when are you going to win this division?
Never.
I mean, they've been okay. They might still make the playoffs. I still think they're favourites to win the division, but I don't know. It's just not come together on the field for me. But, opportunities there. Jonnu Smith was my breakout player for the Titans. I think he's shown enough
Arnie will agree
for me to say he's played quite well.
Oh yeah, no.
He don't get opportunities because this isn't a passing team, and Delaney Walker's their number one guy. But I think I got that one right. I'm going to take credit for that one. And we'll head out west for the final few teams, last two divisions. We'll start with your Cardinals.
Oh, do we have to?
Well, the team's been plagued by injuries. I mean, what can you say? I don't know how good they would have been if everyone was healthy.
I would argue that we've been more plagued by poor offensive line play.
Yeah, but that's because the offensive line's all injured. It might not have been a great offensive line anyway, but the combination of a lack of talent and all of the injuries, and then losing Carson Palmer and David Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are definitely up there for a big disappointment. I mean, come on, we have David Johnson on the team.
I still thought, I had them at 8-8 at the start of the year, and I put that down to my confidence in Bruce Arians. I thought defensively they'd be better than they've been. That's been the big disappointment.
Okay, the front seven, what I expected. The secondary has been shocking this year compared to the standard of play I'm used to in Arizona.
Yeah, they've been quite good the last year. Last year they just couldn't find a corner opposite Peterson. This year, the safety play. Tyvon Branch is playing really well.
Well, Bethel's playing well as well, but Matthew's been nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, made the one impact play against the Colts. Other than that, he's been pretty anonymous. So yeah, we can say they've been with those injuries. They're a team going nowhere. It feels like to me, and yeah, it's tough to coach around that many injuries. Buda Baker was my breakout player for this team because I'm a big fan of his. they've used him as a bit of a Swiss Army knife, and feel like I just need a bit more time before I can make a
Yeah,
judgment on him.
I'd agree. But he has played well.
He's
But
he'll get opportunities. Then the Rams, certainly one of the surprise teams. Bit of a spoiler for later, but
well,
it's an easy one. It's low hanging fruit, as they say. Definitely nailed my breakout pick for this team, Cooper Kupp.
I'm pretty sure that was both you and Arnie. I know Arnie's in love with him as well.
I was a big fan of his in college, and said he'd be an ideal NFL slot receiver. He has been exactly that. Jared Goff might be the most, well, in fact, he is the most improved player in the league. This offense, all of a sudden, is a juggernaut. They've like rebuilt the entire thing.
Yeah, it's shades of the greatest show on turf. Just the amount of points they're putting up.
Because it's just like that in terms of it came out of nowhere, and this is similar. And they've got the dynamic dual threat running back, and the quarterback who not everyone thought would be crap.
And an O-line that's playing better than expected.
Yeah, I knew Andrew Whitworth would probably be good unless age caught up with him, but he's been great. And yeah, they've been really good. I mean, it's all positive for the Rams. And they look like they're getting better at this point as well. Defensively, they're slowly improving. I think they're getting more familiar with the scheme. And yeah, they could end up being a bigger threat. We'll see what happens with Goff. But been very impressive thus far. McVay, clearly a coach of the year front runner. The Seahawks. I mean, they kind of are what I thought they'd be.
Exactly what I thought they would be.
Offensively, yeah, I didn't think the O-line would necessarily be this bad. I mean, it has sabotaged everything this team.
Yeah, I didn't see the O-line being this bad, but as well. But yeah, no, the Seahawks are exactly what I thought they would be this year, though. I mean, the offensive talent's depleting, and the defense will still be good, but they're having issues everywhere now.
Well, I feel good about my breakout player for the Seahawks, and this is one that I thought was a bit of a long shot, but I think I got it. Paul Richardson.
That is a bit of a long shot.
I think I nailed it.
I'm not going to argue that.
Being their number 2 receiver, he's contributed pretty heavily to this team. Made some big plays for him. I still feel like they'll make the playoffs because I think the schedule's pretty soft. But man, I just worry about them when they play against teams in the playoffs that can do kind of like what we saw the Redskins do to them this weekend. They're always going to be a threat to win a game because that defense is just capable of going lights out in a game and just stopping a team dead. But yeah, it's interesting. Then we got the Niners. They are who we thought they were.
Well, yeah, there's nothing on that team.
No, the offense, it's woeful. Defensively, they've had some decent performances, but this offense is just so bad. Now they've got Garoppolo. He might see some games at the end of the year, but I don't even know if you stick him in at the end of the year because he might just get beaten up, have his confidence torn to bits. I don't even know if I'd bother at this point. And defensively, they were playing quite well, but they've just been torn apart by injury. Like this team, it's hard to see where they're going to get a win. Pierre Garçon's injured. He was like the one thing they had on offense.
Oh, it seems like any good players.
Carlos Hyde
all on his own. Good players the Niners have had is their bodies have gone, now I'm having none of this and just give it up.
Yeah, save ourselves for next year. I had Marquise Goodwin as the breakout player because I thought, well, someone's got to catch the ball. He's done exactly what everyone would have thought. He's caught a couple of deep passes, dropped some deep passes, and not much else. So I'm not going to claim that one. The Broncos. Well, that started off well.
Oh, started off so promising.
The wheels really like fell off this week. See that defense give up that many points. The Broncos. I don't know if benching Simeon for Brock Osweiler. I'm not sure.
It was a stupid decision, but I think the defense is starting to give up because of the offense.
Yeah, and they're making mistakes. I think a lot of it is they're trying to push at this point, and it's the same thing when a defence tries to make a play. Because what you need to do is you need to play disciplined and within the scheme and make a play within the scheme. And you watched the Broncos last weekend, and it's similar to what the Bucks have had, where I think guys are just freelancing a little bit in the hopes of making a big play. And that you pay for that in the NFL. It's not college. You cannot do that kind of thing unless you're Troy Polamalu. And defensively, we know they're a really good team, but this offense, after a few nice weeks, the line is terrible. The quarterback play suffered as a result. They can't run the ball. But the line play was the big surprise, and I think that's where a lot of their success was coming from. But that's not the case right now, and they look a mess. That was a real eye opener to just see sort of how far away they are from being competitive with a really good team like the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles. Oh man, that was just embarrassing.
How about this? My breakout player for the Broncos was Trevor Siemian. I'd have looked like a genius after 3 weeks.
You would have, but you cursed it.
We'll move on to the Chargers. Yeah, them along with the Ravens, the two teams that spend the most time on IR. Once again this year, that's been the case. Breakout player, I got this one. Dan Feeney played every single game as a rookie on the offensive line. Played a bit of centre and a bit of guard, and he's played pretty well. Bearing in mind last year was one of the worst O-lines in the league. This year, they're about average.
Hey man,
he's contributed.
There's teams in this league that pay good money for an average line.
Yep, hell yeah. I mean the Chargers. I think, considering the injury situation, I think they've been all right. That's a team that could have really tanked after that 0-4 start.
Yeah,
and just
I think
imploded.
They've done a good job to stay competitive. I mean, as anyone who listens to this knows, the Chargers are exactly who I thought they would be. I've never understood any hype around the Chargers.
It's because you just don't appreciate Philip Rivers.
It's also because I've seen enough Chargers games to know that something stupid will happen where they beat themselves, be it missed field goals or stupid turnover.
So much fun to watch.
Not if you were an actual fan.
That pass rush pairing has lived up to all the hype. Joey Bosa and Ingram have been monsters. Move on to the Chiefs.
Biggest surprise.
You're right. I wouldn't say the biggest surprise. I had them winning the division. I had them being the number 2 seed. As you know, the number 3 seed, Pat Stevens.
Well, they were the biggest surprise coming out of the gate. That little undefeated streak.
Well, the offense, the manner of the offense, but they've sort of come back down to earth a bit, having some issues in the secondary, struggling to run the ball. It's still a good team. Still expecting them to win the division, but there are some weaknesses that I think is fair to say. And my breakout player for the Chiefs was Kareem Hunt.
Oh, how right you were.
Nailed it. A lot of people had him. It's one of those easy ones where you just have to watch his college film and be like, he's a really good player. Don't know how he lasted till the 3rd round. But same's true of Alvin Kamara. You devalue running backs, some good ones slip through. It's been the case for a long time. And then we got the Raiders, another one of the big disappointments. I had Obi Melifonwu as my breakout player. That one's not really worked out. He's on. I will put him as a scratch though. He's on IR, so it doesn't count.
They're also one of the weirdest cases of watching a team constantly implode, then explode every other week. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, they've had a couple of really nice performances. Defensively, they're what I expected.
Yeah, nothing to write home about.
If Khalil Mack's not making impact plays, and it doesn't feel like they're going to have too big of an influence on a game. The line, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the line is not playing up to the standard it did last year, and it's affected everything. I also don't think Carr's playing as well. I think he's forcing it too much last year. I said he played a lot like Tom Brady. It was very dinky-dunk. It was very much take what they give. This year, he's been a bit more aggressive. It's not worked out. Amari Cooper is the most hit-and-miss player in the NFL at the wide receiver position right now. This team's just inconsistent, and I can't see him going anywhere at the minute. They just don't impress me
The
enough.
funny thing is, on a team with Crabtree, who's already a hit and miss player, you can't afford to have your other wide receiver also being hit and miss. It's just
But being even more so, taking it
I
up
mean,
an
how do you
extra
get more
notch.
inconsistent than Crabtree of all players? Jesus.
They found a way, man. They found a way. So that's all 32 teams.
It is.
Yeah.
Let's do some like little silly awards just to close out the show.
Yeah, we'll just go through these quick. So MVP at mid-season.
Wentz. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say Tom Brady
Wentz.
because he obviously has to be nominated because he's Tom Brady. But no, Wentz.
Offensive Player of the Year.
See, a couple of weeks ago, this would have been Kareem Hunt. Oddly,
I'd go Todd Gurley.
I'm gonna have to switch it to Todd Gurley or Jared Goff. I'm not decided yet.
Defensive Player of the Year.
I don't know. Probably maybe Bosa because he's currently like breaking all the records. I'd like to see a cornerback get it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
rare. I don't think there's been a corner that you can necessarily put up there for that at this point.
I mean Jalen Ramsey. I like Kevin Byard as well.
No chance. I know he's had some picks, but
no. Probably Joey Bosa or Calais Campbell probably will win it.
Yeah, I know you're going to hate to hear it, but yeah, Calais Campbell.
Oh, actually,
it's just been a game
as well. If Wentz isn't MVP, actually he'll be offensive. Calais Campbell will be MVP.
I will eat my hat if that happens. And then I'll have to buy a fourth one. Damn it. So then, Offensive Rookie of the Year?
I'm just going to go with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. I think with Fournette missing the last few games, I think it gives Hunt the edge. Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Oh, this is going to be one of those where I've forgotten his name.
I'm going Marshall Lattimore.
I will... Yeah, I'll go Marshall Lattimore as well. I'm not going to...
You could argue Tre'Davious White as well, though, I think. Bill's corner, he's been exceptional as well.
What about... I was going to say Jalen Ramsey for some reason, but he's not a...
Year two, man. Year two.
What about the other rookie? The other corner's a rookie.
No, he's not. AJ Bouye.
I'm thinking of another. I'm thinking of another team. Ignore me. I'll go Marshall Lattimore as well. I can't argue with that.
Coach of the Year.
Sean
I know
McDermott.
where you're going. Fair enough. I'll go with Sean McDermott over in Buffalo. I think they're the two front runners. I think either one's a good shout. Yep. Comeback Player of the Year.
Todd Gurley.
What's he really coming back from?
Being rubbish.
I don't know. I couldn't give him comeback Player of the Year just from I was poo for a season. That's not really a comeback to me. I haven't even thought about this one.
Neither have I. I can't even think of a player who was out last year who's played super well this year. I'm just like, meh.
Actually, Justin Houston.
Oh,
there you
yeah,
go.
all right,
He's
fine.
played well. After barely playing last couple of seasons. Are there any other awards? I don't care about stat leaders.
Most disappointing.
Yeah, biggest disappointment. Toss up between Bucks and Giants. I feel like I have to say a toss up because obviously for me it's the Bucks, but I think if you're a neutral, it's probably hard to. It's one of those two.
I'm going to go with Raiders or Titans.
Fair enough. Biggest surprise of the season?
Rams. Not just because they're winning in a soft division, but the way in which they're winning.
Yeah, I can buy that. I'm going to go Bills. Similarly, like, just inferiorly lost so much talent. Looked like they were tanking.
Oh no, wait,
They could make
sorry.
the
No,
playoffs.
biggest surprise. I'm changing my vote. New York Jets.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Doubling up on the AFC
Yeah,
East.
they actually won games.
But we'll give the Rams an honourable mention. Cool. Team you've most enjoyed watching?
Oh, that's a short list. Eagles, Rams, and of course, handsome Tom himself.
The Vikings. Really enjoyed watching them this year, which I think clearly shows my defensive leanings. But yeah, I like watching that team. They're fun. Player you've most enjoyed watching?
Well, this is different.
You did give it away last one. You know you want to say Brady.
No. But no. Brady is just watching it. It's watching a masterclass every week. But it's not my most enjoyable. Hold on, let me think.
I would have said Deshaun Watson till the injury.
Yeah, I'd probably go Deshaun Watson, Kareem Hunt, or Shady. Actually, it's always a good thing to watch it. Shady.
I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill.
Oh yeah,
It's when he makes plays, they're sick.
yeah. When he makes plays, he makes plays.
Some of them are ridiculous. So yeah. Defensively though, I'd say player I've most enjoyed watching. I mean, Fletcher Cox has just been a wrecking ball, but I'm going to go with Everson Griffin. I've really enjoyed watching him for the Vikings this year. He's been good the last couple of years, but I think this year he's really took it
I'm
up
going to
another
go
level.
Joey Bosa or Calais Campbell.
Yeah, I could put Bosa or Ingram in there. Like they're the pairing. I love watching those two. I watch Chargers games at the minute mainly to watch those two. It's been great. So I think that's it. Unless you got any other thoughts you want to
No,
toss
I
out
would
there.
say best celebration, but they already the Steelers.
We're saving it.
Well, for
Mid-season.
mid-season, Steelers hide and seek,
It's
impossible to beat.
going to be tough. It's tough. It's a high bar they set with the hide and seek celebration. That's for sure. So yeah, that's that one. I think it was pretty thorough. I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we
A lot
managed
in
to
there.
cover 32 teams and some silly awards in basically an hour.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm a little bit tired after all that. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. It has been a pleasure as always. Next week, I'm on holiday, so there's going to be no videos from me for a little bit. I'm back on Tuesday with Bucks Banter. And possibly the podcast that day. We will see. Or the round table. So check those out. If you could like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon. That'd be grand. As I mentioned yesterday, one day I will update that Patreon. I promise. And yeah, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Been a pleasure as always. Have a great evening. Go Bucks.
Bye.